Hi, I'm Marin. And at my own baby shower, my sister, Talia, stood up and said, "The man I loved might not be the father." It was like the wind got sucked out of the backyard. 1 second, people were laughing, passing around cake, guessing baby names. And the next, my sister was holding up a folded piece of paper, smiling like she'd just won something. I didn't even need to look to know what it was. Some fake DNA test she'd printed off the internet. The way she said it, so sweetly, like she was just trying to be helpful, it made my skin crawl. I stood there frozen. Not because I believed it, not because anyone really did, but because she did it with that smile. Like this was some twisted performance. Like she was proud of it. She looked around the crowd, waiting for the gasps, the shock, the drama, and she got it. For a moment, everything went quiet. You could feel it. This thick tension, hanging in the air like smoke after a firework misfires. But before I could even find the words to respond, someone else beat me to it. Her husband, Luther, walked up from the edge of the crowd. He looked calm, too calm. He didn't say a word, just handed her an envelope. She took it like she was expecting an apology. Her face fell the second she opened it. Divorce papers. And then he said it, clear as day, for everyone to hear. "You wanted a scene. Here's one you didn't get to direct." She blinked. Once, twice. Still holding that paper in one hand and her pride in the other. You could almost hear the spotlight pop and fizzle out right then and there. I didn't need to say anything. I just stood there, hand resting on my belly, watching her unravel in real time. Before we go any further, when are you listening to this? And where? Drop it in the comments. I'm just curious. Because this story, it isn't just about a baby shower or a sister with a cruel streak. It's about what happens when silence isn't a shield anymore. It's about how sometimes the quietest moments hold the most power. I pulled into my parents' driveway just after 10. The Carolina sun was already hotter than it should have been for late spring, like it was trying to warn me. James, my husband, had offered to come, but I told him not to bother. It was just brunch. You know, the kind where everyone smiles a little too hard and talks about the weather while ignoring the giant elephant in the room. Or in this case, the baby. Inside, nothing had changed. The same lemon furniture polish in the air, the same worn-out carpet, the same tension tucked neatly into the corners like folded linen. Dad gave me a stiff pat on the shoulder and offered coffee without looking up from the TV. Mom was already whisking eggs in the kitchen like we were feeding a dozen people instead of 4. No one asked how I was feeling. No mention of the baby. Just background noise and polite half smiles, like they were more comfortable pretending everything was fine than asking how I actually was. I walked through the hallway past the piano we were never allowed to touch and stopped in front of the gallery wall. The pictures hadn't changed either. Family memories stacked in a kind of chaotic timeline. But there was one theme that ran through all of them. Talia, big smile, big hair, new boyfriend, new year, pageants, prom, vacations. Her middle school photo with that ridiculous rhinestone tiara still held the prime spot at the top, like she'd won something none of us even knew we were competing for. Then there was the frame. Sisters Forever. I'd bought it when I was 9. It had 2 photo slots, glittered letters across the bottom. One for each of us. Mine never made it in. I remember wrapping it up and giving it to her with a ribbon, hoping she'd understand what I was trying to say without me having to say it. She laughed, slid in a picture of herself at cheer camp, and called it a day. It still sat there. Just her. Always her. "Brunch will be ready in 20, Mom called, pulling me out of my thoughts. I nodded and walked back into the kitchen, started slicing strawberries because it gave my hands something to do. She talked about the neighbor's new deck, a church fundraiser, how Dad hurt his back fixing the fence. I smiled, nodded, said the right things. But then my phone buzzed. I almost didn't check it. But something in me, something that had learned to brace for impact, told me to look. And there it was. Tagged, Talia Vexley. A photo. Her hand on a round baby bump captioned, "First to bring a grandchild? Maybe not, but at least I'll look good doing it." She was wearing a soft pink maternity dress, filters cranked up, hair curled to perfection. And that bump? It wasn't hers. It couldn't be. But the comments were already flooding in. Congrats. Wait, you're pregnant too? Twinsies in the family? I stared at the screen, stomach turning. We hadn't even announced the pregnancy yet. We were going to tell everyone next weekend. Quietly, just close family. But she'd taken it, stolen it, not out of excitement, out of control. I didn't say a word, just deleted the app and kept slicing strawberries. My silence wasn't surrender. It was survival. Derek wasn't flashy. He didn't post gym selfies or wear cologne that screamed through a room. He smelled like cedarwood and clean laundry, and he listened. Not the kind of listening where someone's just waiting for their turn to speak. He actually heard me. We met at a professional development conference in downtown Charlotte. I remember he was 2 chairs over during a breakout session on adult learning principles. Everyone else looked half asleep, but when the speaker started reading from the slides, he leaned toward me and whispered, "She sounds like she's reading the dictionary backwards." I laughed harder than I should have. That's where it started. By our 4th date, he remembered I preferred chamomile over peppermint. He brought tulips just because. He showed up when he didn't have to. I wasn't used to that. For the first time, I let myself picture what it would feel like to bring someone home. Not out of obligation, but hope. We had plans for him to meet my family at a backyard cookout. I wasn't nervous. That was new for me. The night before, we video called like we always did. Me in pajamas, him rubbing the back of his neck like he always did when he was tired. He said I made him feel calm. I told him I hadn't felt this safe in a long time. The next morning, I sent him a good morning text with a stupid pancake gif. It didn't deliver. By noon, my call rang once and went to voicemail. By the next day, I realized he had blocked me. Everywhere. Phone, Instagram, even Venmo. Gone. I didn't cry right away. I didn't even know what to feel. Confused. Embarrassed. I kept telling myself there had to be a reason. A misunderstanding. Something. I wasn't 17. I wasn't going to let someone ghost me like I was disposable. So that evening, under a gray sky that felt too low, I drove to his apartment. I didn't know what I'd say, but I knew I had to say something. When he opened the door, he looked surprised, like he didn't think I'd actually come. I smiled, tight and small. "Hey. Figured I'd check in since you disappeared." He stepped outside and shut the door behind him. His face looked different. Older somehow. Guarded. "I didn't know how to tell you," he said. I nodded slowly. "You don't know how to call or text?" Then he said it. The thing that hit harder than the ghosting ever could. Talia messaged. Me. I blinked. What? A few days ago. She sent screenshots, said there were messages between you and other guys. Photos, said it was a pattern. I stared at him. And you believed her? She said she was trying to protect me. That you have a history of needing attention, that you lie. I kept my voice steady. And you never thought to ask me? He hesitated. Why would your sister lie about you? That right there, that question. That's when I knew this wasn't just jealousy. It was a pattern. One I hadn't wanted to admit ran this deep. I took a breath and let it settle in my chest. I wasn't 17. I wasn't going to stay silent this time. I showed up at my parents' house the next morning with no makeup, a sweater thrown over yesterday's jeans, and a kind of clarity that only comes after a long night of not sleeping. My stomach felt hollow, but my hands were steady. I wasn't there to yell. I was there to look her in the eye. Talia was at the kitchen table scrolling on her phone, hair up in one of those messy buns that somehow still looked photo-ready. She didn't even glance up when I walked in. I need to talk to you, I said. Flat. She sighed, dropped her phone with a little flourish. God, what now? I didn't play coy. Why did you lie to Derek? Her face barely moved, but her eyes hardened. What are you even talking about? I went to his apartment. He told me everything. There was a pause. Then she stood up slowly, arms crossing like she was prepping for a sparring match. So? So, why? I asked again, softer this time. She shrugged like it was obvious. You always get the ones who look like they stepped out of a magazine. You always get the praise, the attention. Mom and Dad treat you like you're made of glass. I've had to work for everything. I felt my jaw tighten. And that's my fault? You get too soft with men like that, she said, waving me off. So yeah, I told him some things. Now he's gone. You're welcome. I couldn't respond right away. My throat was dry, my heart loud. Just then, Mom walked in, dish towel in hand. She froze when she saw us. Girls, please, she said, like she was tired before we even began. Not again. Not again. Like this was just another fight over borrowed clothes, as if destroying someone's relationship was a regular Tuesday. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't sibling rivalry. It wasn't petty. It was survival. Every move she made wasn't about getting ahead. It was about pushing me out. Later that week, I noticed something strange. The family group chat disappeared from my phone. At first, I thought it was a glitch. I searched everywhere. Nothing. Then a cousin messaged me out of the blue. Hey, you coming to Grandma's thing? Sunday? Talia's organizing it. Should be fun. I stared at the message, confused. What thing? The typing bubble blinked, then vanished. I got no reply. I went anyway. Not to prove a point, just because it was Grandma's house, and sometimes banana pudding can feel more like home than people ever will. I brought a peach cobbler and wore my soft blue cardigan. Walked in, smiled, said hello. People barely looked. Up. Talia was already holding court, retelling some story about Charleston. Near the end of dinner, she stood, raised a glass, and with that perfect voice said, "To the women in this family, beautiful, brave, and unapologetically themselves." Her eyes landed on me. Even the ones who take forever to find their voice. The room chuckled. Light laughter. Harmless teasing. I set down my fork, looked right at her. I didn't lose my voice. I said quietly, I just got tired of yelling into silence. The air shifted. No one laughed after that. I told my mom. I didn't want a big production. Just something simple. A backyard gathering, a few friends, family, nothing showy. I asked for no surprises, no speeches, no RSVP list longer than a CVS receipt. I wanted peace. A moment before everything changed. The weather held out, like a gift. Soft breeze, clear skies. Tables were dressed in baby blue and pale yellow. Mason jars held forks, and a small cake sat at the center. He or she, let's see, piped in white frosting. It felt right, calm, mine, until Talia showed up. 15 minutes late, of course. Dressed in white denim, oversized sunglasses, and that shirt again, the one that read Godmother-to-be in blinding silver glitter. People clapped when she strolled in like she was arriving at a charity gala. She hugged Mom, waved to friends, didn't even look at me. Ellison appeared beside me, placing a hand gently on my lower back. Breathe, he whispered. She's just making noise. I nodded, but inside I was already bracing. A few minutes later, Mom counted down, and Ellison and I cut into the cake together. Blue frosting spilled out. Cheers went up, clapping, laughing, someone shouted, "Team Blue!" And for a second, just a second, I let myself breathe. Then she clapped. Loud and sharp. Wait, she said, stepping forward with a folded sheet of paper in her hand. Before we start celebrating, I just want to share a little gift. Something for clarity. I froze. Talia, don't. She smiled. Tight, too. Polished. According to this test, Ellison might not be the father. Gasps. Actual, audible gasps. The entire backyard went still. Like someone hit pause on the world. Ellison stiffened beside me. I could feel his breath change. His eyes locked on the paper in her hand, jaw set. I stepped toward her, heart pounding, but voice steady. What is that? She held it up like it was official. A DNA analysis, I got it online, just trying to keep things honest. I snatched the paper from her hand. No lab name, no header, just numbers and boxes, downloaded from who knows where. You ran a test? I asked. On what? Air? She shrugged. You've always been secretive. I figured I'd get ahead of the rumors. My mother stepped in. Talia, that's enough. But she wasn't done. It's a joke, she said. Come on, everyone knows it's not real. I just wanted to add a little drama. It's a party. No one laughed. A couple guests glanced at their phones. One picked up her purse and quietly slipped out the gate. I looked at Ellison. He wasn't angry, not at me, just hurt. Because for one split second, even he had to wonder. Turned to her, calm now. You tried to take the one thing I've protected most, my peace. She rolled her eyes. You're overreacting. No, I'm seeing you clearly. Ellison stepped forward, voice low. You're lucky this is her day. If it were mine, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And then, from near the drinks table, Luther walked forward. Talia's husband. Quiet, slow, deliberate. In his hand, an envelope. He stopped in front of her, looked her dead in the eye. You love making scenes, he said. Here's one you didn't get to direct. He handed her the papers. You're divorcing me? She whispered. Luther didn't flinch. You made this mess public. I'm just cleaning it up where you left it. And just like that, she stood there, speechless, exposed, alone. 9 days passed after the baby shower. Quiet, thick days. Ellison and I slipped back into our little apartment like we were exhaling for the first time. I folded onesies. He checked the locks twice every night. We didn't talk much about her, but the silence she left behind felt heavier than her presence ever did. That Friday, just as the sun dipped low and the kitchen filled with soft orange light, there was a knock. Not a neighbor knock, not the delivery guy. Heavier. Too familiar. I froze with a baby hat in my hands. Ellison came around the corner, drying his hands. You expecting someone? I shook my head. The knock came again. I opened the door just enough to see her. Talia. Sunglasses on, even though it was nearly dark. Her makeup looked slept in. She held a duffel bag in one hand and a shiny gift bag in the other. I just need a place to stay, she said, flat. Before I could speak, Ellison stepped beside me. His voice was steady. This isn't the place, and it's not the time. She turned toward him, smirking like he was some guest at her show who forgot his lines. You're not the man I thought you were, she said. Or maybe you are. Then she looked at me. You always get what you want, Marin, even when you don't deserve it. I didn't blink, didn't flinch, just stared at her like she was a stranger, which by then she was. She sighed dramatically and held out the gift bag. It's for the baby. I didn't move to take it. So she crouched, set it on the welcome mat, then leaned in slightly, voice low. Just remember, people online love stories about happy families, and broken ones too. She walked off without looking back. I picked up the bag like it might explode and dropped it straight into the trash under the sink. I'm installing cameras tomorrow, I said. Ellison nodded, front and back. The next morning, I called the lawyer, told her I wanted to start the paperwork for a restraining order. She didn't sound surprised. We'll take care of it, she said. Weeks passed. The world felt quieter, not perfect, but steady. Then came the christening. We kept it small, just how we wanted it. A rented community room with soft hymns playing. Table flowers simple and low. My parents arrived early. My mom moved with a new stillness. My dad didn't say much, but he stayed close. That was enough. Ellison stood by the entrance, watching. We both knew she might show. And of course, she did. 15 minutes before we started, Talia walked in like she'd been invited. Pale blue dress, curls swept to one side, smile polished to a weapon. I thought we were starting over, she said loudly, as if that was enough. She mingled, pretended nothing had happened, told people Luther was traveling, which wasn't true. Everyone knew. After the baptism, Ellison stepped up to the mic to give our thank you toast. But before he could finish, Talia stepped forward with a note card. "Do you mind?" she asked sweetly, already reaching for the mic. He let her. The speakers buzzed. Then her own voice played out loud. "Just remember, people online love stories about happy families. And broken ones, too." She froze. The room didn't. Her note card dropped. She tried to speak, but no one was listening anymore. I walked to the gift table. From my purse, I pulled out the Sisters Forever frame. On one side, still Talia's pageant photo. On the other, a new one. My son, wrapped in yellow, smiling with that soft, safe kind of peace only a baby knows. I found someone who deserves the space she never made for me. 3 mornings after the christening, I found myself awake before the baby. The house was quiet in that soft, sacred way early mornings can be. Just the creak of the floorboards and the faint chirp of birds outside the window. I sat in the living room, rocking Alex gently in my arms, his breath warm against my collarbone. The Sisters Forever frame sat on the entry table across the room, catching the early light. It didn't haunt me anymore. It just sat there, silent, still. I was halfway through humming "You Are My Sunshine" when my phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. I hesitated for a second, then reached for it with one hand. It was my mom. I answered. "Morning." She didn't speak right away, just a soft breath like she was choosing her words. Then, above a whisper, "Your father and I watched the christening video again last night." I said nothing, unsure of where this was going. She continued, voice steadier now. "We're proud of you, of how you handled it, of the mother you're becoming." There was a pause. Not awkward, just full. "And we're sorry," she added, "that it took us this long to say it out loud." I closed my eyes for a moment. I didn't rush to respond. I wasn't angry. I wasn't waiting for more, just letting the words settle. "Thank you," I said. Simple. Enough. She asked if she could drop off some things later in the week. I told her I'd think about it. Then we said goodbye. By the time I hung up, Ellison had wandered into the room, coffee in one hand, his free one brushing gently across Alex's back. He leaned over and kissed the top of our son's head, then set the mug down next to the frame. His eyes flicked toward it, then back to me. "You okay?" I exhaled slowly, brushed my thumb over Alex's fine, downy hair. "I think I finally know what peace feels like. It's not perfect, but it's mine." He nodded. "You earned it." That night, after we put Alex to bed and the house settled into its soft evening hush, I picked up the frame again. This time, not to hide it, but to place it somewhere better. I'd had a custom shadow box made, glass sealed, edges smooth, and locked. One side still held Talia's pageant photo, frozen in time, but the other now belonged to Alex. Tucked in a pale blue blanket, lips parted in sleep, eyes just barely open like he was still deciding if the world was worth waking up for. Placed the shadow box high on the living room shelf. Between a framed poem I've loved since college and the candle we light every New Year, not out of reach, but out of reach of harm. Some sisters stay frozen in the roles they wrote for you. Mine chose performance over truth, attention over love. But motherhood taught me something I wish I'd learned sooner. The story doesn't end because someone exits. It begins when you decide who's worth staying, if there's no room for you in their story. Maybe it's time to start writing your own. If you've ever had to set boundaries with family, or walk away to protect your peace, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. And if this one hit home, tap like, hit subscribe, and stick around. There's more where this came from. Stories that remind us we're not alone, no matter how quiet things get.